Hello and welcome. This is Martin with My IELTS Tutor. Today we're going to talk about IELTS speaking. Specifically, I'm going to go over some very common mistakes related to IELTS speaking. So let's begin. Now, as you can see, we have a number of IELTS speaking mistakes. They're very common to make. Anyone can make them, and they're very easy to deal with. So let's take a closer look at them. First of all, responding to a question in silence. This is when the examiner asks you a question and you just don't say anything. And there's two primary reasons for this. First, you may not understand the question, or you just don't have the words to answer. So here, what you need to do is really pay attention to the question, and then you should have a large enough vocabulary to be able to answer the question in a reasonable way. Now let's look at the next mistake. Next is speaking in a flat or monotone voice. So when you speak, you don't want to speak like this as if you're speaking like a robot. It doesn't sound natural. You want to sound natural. And so speaking in a flat or monotone voice just doesn't sound natural. And so the examiners are looking for that natural tone of voice. And one way you can deal with this to improve upon is by watching native speakers speak and imitating the way they speak. You can do this by watching movies, television shows, or watching YouTube videos. Now the next one is speaking too fast. Now you don't want to speak too fast, because when you speak too fast, it's really hard for you to think and speak at the same time. Also, it's really hard for the listener to understand what you're saying, and a lot of times it affects your pronunciation. So you want to avoid speaking too fast. At the same time, you don't want to speak too slow, because what happens is the scorer might end up falling asleep. Well, actually, no, the scorer is not going to fall asleep, but it's not, again, both are not natural. So you want to find a good rate of speech that's not too fast and not too slow. Again, imitate the way native speakers speak. And again, you can do this by watching YouTube videos or watching movies and television shows. Now, the next common mistake is speaking too loud. You don't want to speak too loud. That's, first of all, it's kind of considered rude. So, and another thing is you don't want to speak softly. You don't want to speak softly, because that's kind of like whispering. And so it might be difficult for the scorer to hear you. So we don't want to speak too soft or too loud. To help with that, just try to find the right volume when you speak. Again, you can maybe listen and watch native speakers speak to kind of help guide you. Now, the next common mistake is speaking in your native language. Now, you don't want to speak in your native language, because IELTS is a test of English proficiency. You know, they're going to be testing your ability to speak in English and comprehend in English. So you don't want to speak in your native language. So now it's okay to speak certain terms, like if you're talking about a specific suit of clothes that's only found in your country. You can mention that, but you want to give a brief explanation of what that term is. But you don't want to speak in your native language. The next common mistake is using slang. Now, even though IELTS is an informal interview, you still don't want to use slang. First of all, there are many terms in slang that are only used in your own country or even in your own location that other people who don't live there won't understand. For instance, if you're driving a scooter, you don't want to say scooty, because I don't know what a scooty is. I might think that's a scooter, but it's not. It may not be. Same thing. If you're talking about your laptop, you don't want to refer to it as your lappy. You want to call it a laptop. So don't use slang. The next common mistake is using simple vocabulary. And the problem with using simple vocabulary is you tend to use too many words to describe something or explain something, and it takes a long time for you to do it. Where you can use more specific vocabulary to do it. You want to have a good range of vocabulary, from simple, common words to more advanced, more difficult words. All right, now the next one is repeating the question. You don't want to repeat the question. It's not okay to repeat the question. Sorry about that. Again, you do not want to repeat the question because you want to be able to paraphrase. Meaning put someone else's words into your own words. So this means you need to paraphrase, use synonyms, okay? And a lot of students tend to repeat the question when they're starting to answer a follow-up question or a general question. So don't repeat the question. Next one is asking to have the question repeated. Sometimes it's okay once or twice in the exam, but you don't want to continually ask to have the question repeated. This shows the examiner that you really don't understand the question. But once or twice is okay. The next one are common vocabulary errors and grammatical errors. So common grammatical errors could be using the wrong word in the wrong context, meaning wrong situation that you want to use it for. And common grammatical errors could be incorrect prepositions, incorrect article use, pronouns, even tenses. So those common mistakes as well. So now, those are the common mistakes. Work hard to avoid them. That's it for this lesson. Join me next time for more lessons about IELTS speaking. If you have questions about my IELTS tutor and what we offer, be sure to click on the link